Hello and welcome, everyone. We are live after round 16. That's right, round 16 to recap all of the action. I'm your host and AFL Fantasy Fanatic, Tim Guest. And, of course, you can find me on socials at TimGuestAU. Now, for those listening on the pod, it's Sunday, the 30th of June. Come join us next time on YouTube or X and get your questions answered live. And thanks of course, to those who sent in their questions already in. And if you want a question answered, simply comment on the platform wherever you're watching us now. Now, joining me as always is my co-hosts. And, well, firstly, AFL Fantasy Fanatic. And, of course, you can find him at Bales DT. Bales, we'll start with you, mate. How was the round for you?
Crows won. That was good. Good win. And it also made it better that there was some idiot behind me. The whole, you know, when you get that person behind you at the football, the whole first call, they're going like, Crows were like 2 goals, 6 saying he's just like, oh, I don't know how to kick goal. Giants go down and kick 2 straight. He's like, that's how you kick goal. And I'm like, here we go. This is going to be that sort of game. But no, it was good. It was good to get the win. But in terms of fantasy, a bit frustrating. I had a solid enough week. We'll go through it in a sec, but solid enough week. But just a frustrating week, which I'll probably go explain a tiny bit when we look at our scores and stuff like that.
All right, mate. Well, we'll get all stuck into it in just a moment. But joining us is the third of the AFL Fantasy Fanatics tonight. There's all 3 of us, the 3 of the trio on tonight. You can find him at Jordox 2020. Jordox, mate, how was your week?
Pretty crap round of footy for me in terms of AF Fantasy World. But as Bale said, the Crowies got up, which was nice to see last night. And great to be on with you boys now because I feel like this is my therapy. So let's start the session, shall we?
It tells us we've had a bloody good week when both you boys, the only thing you guys want to talk about is the Adelaide Crows. So maybe that indicates how your fantasy teams went this week.
We're going to make the finals.
No, exactly. All right, well, let's go around. Let's find out how everyone went. Bars, we'll start with you, mate. Score, round rank, and rank.
Yeah, so 2264 for me, which was a round rank of 4317, which is a bit better than the outside the 20-odd thousand that I finished in round 15. So that was nice. Just frustrating that, again, I only went up to 5939 overall rank, so I made 66 spots, which again, it's always good to move up in the ranks, but sort of Walsh and Newman really killed me in that second to last game. Was looking like a decent rank jump, but then they decided in that third quarter, especially, I think Walsh got like over 60 points, and Newman did essentially like 40 or 50 points as well. So that was all salt into the wound because I would have brought Newman in this week if it wasn't for Oliver's disastrous score, because I would have held him and traded Powell out and whatever. But anyway, so not too great. And yeah.
All right, mate. We're just outside the top 500, still going along pretty well. Jordox, mate.
Just want that hat.
Exactly. 8 rounds to go, mate. Jordox, what about you, mate?
Well, gee, boys, if you'd told me on Friday, hey, Jordan, you're going to have Dunkley go 158 as a somewhat unique, and one of the boys you trade in, Caldwell's, going to score 144, I would have said to you, well,
sounds like a good week coming.
But no. She was a stinker. So I ended up with a 2,083, which, I didn't think was going to be that bad. And then I was hearing pars of 2,200. I thought, okay, I'm cooked. So my ranking has flown out to 2,734. And look, I was probably already in denial about my chances for a hat, but I can safely say now my chances of a hat are out the window.
Yeah, so, sure.
There you go. But what can you do? That's the game.
Yeah, it is. All right, boys. Well, 22-19 for me. So I felt like it was a pretty strong week. I had the C on Walshy, so I thought that would help her, considering a lot of people went golden. But I only managed to climb, I don't know, maybe I climbed, maybe it was about 1,500 spots, something along those lines. So I'm sitting just inside 7,000. Actually, hang on. I refreshed. I better refresh. You know how? Because it doesn't update live. You got to refresh to find out. 7075. So I've slipped about out. Must have been a late adjustment or something like that. So just slipped outside the 7,000 mark. Round rank of about 7,000 as well. So look, happy, moving in the right direction. But a few stinker scores there, which we'll get into in just a moment. We'll kick us off with the stinker scores. +3, -3 bars. Let's go back to you, mate.
Yeah, well, there was one clear one for me this week. Honourable mention goes to Ryan Marshall with that bloody Campbell news. That really sort of threw me for one, but 119 was still good. But Lockie Whitfield gets mine, 160 points, if you don't mind. I was wondering if we'd see that ceiling of the 150 plus that we've seen for Whitfield in previous years, and it was obviously even better the fact that he did it and they still lost and Crows were able to get the win. So that's always a perfect fantasy night for me when Crows win and the other team loses, but your player goes well. So he was everywhere. His consistency has been incredible. Like he had that 2-week patch of the 40 and the 77 with tag games, but outside of that, he's been over 9 in every game, 4 tons in a row now. 3 of them have been over 120. So could cop some attention from like a Chincolla this week, but I think you're going to need Whitfield on the run home because he's.
I think that's the other thing as well. We were expecting with that run. I mean, people were even talking about getting off him. So in terms of being able to hold on to him and for him to have gone, plus 120 a couple of times, that's been a really good hold. So,
and he was 789 at his lowest point in round 13, and now he's going to be over 900k with a very low break even. So if you don't have him. Maybe not this week because of Carlton, but maybe the week after you might want to target him against, Richmond or something.
-3, mate?
-3.
If it takes him that long,
Young.
That's a good week.
No, they've got to go to Hayden Young. No, it's sort of Hayden Young is that guy in our teams that disguises himself and sort of sits behind everyone. He's like that kid at the back of the classroom that you sort of don't take too much notice of. He gets the job done. No, 37, not good enough. He's lucky that he's got a good run coming up because if it wasn't for that good run, he would be traded this week. But he's got Richmond and a few good games after that. So I'll be holding, but 37, I know it's against Sydney, mate, so come on.
Just walk us through. I mean, I'm clear you probably watched that game, Bales. I didn't get a chance to watch. Not all of it. I watched some of it just because I had the kids this weekend. But, mate, what was the deal?
Just gave away just some sort of unnecessary free kicks, some tackles in the back. He spent time forward. Fife was in the CBAs a bit more this week, tagging Heaney. So that's something to watch moving forward. I think that the good matchups coming up, regardless, will be good for Young anyway. He'll still be able to put up solid scores. But it is something to note moving forward because Brayshaw, since the bye, has been up there in terms of CBA. Sarong's always up there. Fife's had a bump, which means that Young is the guy that's had a bit of a dip. So, yeah, just something to note because he scores. He hasn't gone over 110 since round 8, and that was against Richmond, who plays this week. So I still think he's a hold, and he's been solid. But yeah, just a bit of a slight flag moving.
Bit of a watch. Yeah.
He had
Jordox.
I think he had a -5 third quarter, something like that. Like went backwards by 5 points.
Very bad.
Yeah, it's hard to score well if you're going to have a -5 quarter. But anyway.
Yeah.
My +3.
Yeah.
Hard to go past Josh Slam Dunkley Friday night. Beautiful, just what I wanted. He's been a great the triple double. And he's been a great pick all year, but he did slide for a few weeks, and he hasn't really given us a big whopper like this for some time. So that was wonderful. -3. Look, I had Hayden Young, but when he's so commonly owned, I wasn't too stressed about it. It's more the unique guys when they go bad. And LDU, or what I'm calling him, LDFU, because that's pretty much what he said to me. And if I ever saw him on the street, I'd call him that. Nah, not really. I'd shake his hand and ask for a selfie. 67 though. Oh boy, oi. I knew he was a risk when I got him a few weeks ago. It was like, well, depends which way he goes, which version of him do we get, and 67 in pretty much. Look, he wasn't my worst player by any stretch.
Was he getting tagged or anything like that?
Not sure. Wasn't watching.
Bales, any idea?
I was watching the Sydney Freo game, but I don't believe he was. There wouldn't have been anyone from the Dogs.
No. Look, I think the warning signs were there last week because he was so good in the game last week. In the media, they're saying, what a performance. He's in career best form, and he scored 94. And it's like, well, that's probably why you just only get him in Supercoach, Jordan. So lesson learnt, potentially. Anyway, that was it.
Yeah, sure. All right, -3 for me. Well, I mean, look, I had both those players, right? Hayden Young and LDU. But for me, it's hard to split it between Zach Fisher and Jai Simpkins. So Jai Simpkin was my one of my trade-ins this week. So to bring him in for a 64, I thought was a bit putrid. But then also to have Zach Fisher, and I mean, now obviously I'm concerned with him being subbed out. About
he was dominating as well. 67 very early in the third quarter.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. We'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the game. We'll have to see about the updates during the week, whether he potentially might be out next week or whether whether he's going to be a hold. But that's my -3. But to finish things on a positive note, I mean, once again, I also had Lockie Whitfield, and I did mention before that I had the C on Sammy Walsh, but I'm going to give my +3 to Jide Caldwell, who was my other trade in this week. So I was kind of throwing up between Trent Rivers and Jai Caldwell, and with a bit of DPP kind of action, and managed to make things work so that I could move things around to make get Jai in, and that really paid off. Obviously, with a big
82 points, mate.
on debut. So that was really. It's nice to have a couple of good trade-ins these last couple of weeks. Make me feel a bit better about my fantasy side. So yeah, that's my plus and -3s for the week. All right. Well, before we get into the games, we're just going to do a quick update on the Content Creators Cup. So Bales, mate, we'll start with you. Who did you match up with against this week?
Came up against Louis and just got the job done by 11 points. So a close one. Dylan Moore was making it a little bit nervy in that last game. I had no one in the final 2 games, which made today pretty boring outside of Rosie and Marshall. But yeah, happy to get the win and continue on the up. But again, Mitch getting another win, so I still can't catch him for that top spot.
Yeah. So I was up against Nathan from the Obermullets this week, but he beat me with a 22.97 against the 22.19. So yeah, things continuing to be pretty average for old Timbo in the Content Creators Cup this week. But I did want to just have a quick look at Mitch. It looks he's moved into 4th. I've just clicked in, so it looks like he had a pretty big week this week as well with a 23.67. Was that the highest for the week? 23.67, 23. Yeah, it looks like it was the highest in the Content Creators Cup. Sanch was a 23.53, and Jake was a 23.37.
Shout out to Sanch as well. He was outside the top 10K during the buys, and he's had a couple of massive weeks last couple of weeks, and he's now inside the top 4K. So it just shows how quickly things can change. So no, he's going along nicely at the moment.
Can you imagine the Ball Boys bloody podcast this week, mate? The head wall is going to be massive. It's going to be huge. So make sure all our listeners out there tune into the Ball Boys this week to support Mitch on his run home. All right, well, just quickly before we finish off, obviously the AFL Fantasy Content Creators Cup is proudly brought to you by Infinite Wealth, making smarter financial decisions where winning coaches will get $5,000 for their favourite charity. And just a reminder, there is a bunch of free gifts valued at over $3,000 available for every AFL Fantasy coach. So just head across to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy to claim your free financial freedom masterclass and stack of tools and resources to help you make smarter financial decisions. And probably just a big shout out as well. We had a big event last Thursday night. It was actually a bit of a blowout. We had it at the Campfield, which is a great little venue there, doing food and drinks. And we had a bunch more people show up than what we expected. And from all reports, it was a fantastic night. So thanks a lot to everyone that came along. And for anyone that wants to find out more, just head along to infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy to claim and for more details. All right, well, let's get stuck into the games. Starting off Friday night. Jeez, I tell you, I do miss Thursday night footy, that's for sure. But starting with Friday night footy, Brisbane defeating Melbourne by 5 points. Much better game than what we expected it to be in front of 29,000 people in the Gabba. There's a late change there with Jake Bowie being dropped out of the side due to a back concern and being replaced by Kynan Brown. In terms of the subs there, Jasper Fletcher replaced Logan Morris in the third quarter, and Kynan Brown replaced Harrison Petty after he was subbed out in the fourth quarter with an ankle issue.
Beautiful. Well, few scores from this game. Clayton Oliver, was it ever in doubt that he was going to go well with this? Watching that, that was always going to happen. So one week.
Props to Guesty on our chat Tuesday night. He was questioning whether the tag would go to him, and we were certain. And they put it on Viney instead.
Yeah, which is interesting. It didn't even seem like they really tagged. Really, like Barry was on Viney at times, but it was sort of quite loose. It was sort of didn't really tag, and they thought they'd probably we're going to beat them, and they end up getting over the line just late. So, but Oliver 109, people talking about on my watch on saying to trade him back in. You're not trading Oliver back in. You need to see probably 3 weeks of this before you even contemplate it. But anyway, Dane Zorko got the job done as well. 118 points. A lot of people put it in the VC on the Friday, and he was a good option, and you definitely would have been taking that, and you'd be happy if you took the 118 as the captain there. Matt Scorn as well had a quiet game with a 77. So all the Matt Scorn owners again had a pretty good week, and they were happy with that. I think he'll bounce back this week against West Coast at the G. So, but Josh Dunkley,
he won't. He's done. He's cooked for the year.
He's
tired.
He looks tired. I'm worried about Gorney.
I'm not worried at all. I think he'll be fine. Josh Dunkley, though, Jordox, 158. He was obviously very good. You're obviously an owner. They do have a quite nice run coming up as well for midfielders. So I'm just getting their run up now. So Josh Dunkley, this upcoming week, he'll obviously be over 900K again. He's now got the Crows, West Coast, Sydney, Gold Coast, then St Kilda. So that Sydney and Gold Coast games, maybe not as easy, but the next couple at least will be pretty good. Is he someone that non-owners should be looking at targeting?
Oh, of course. I mean, it's Josh Dunkley. He should always be on the radar. I guess one reservation some might have had as owners or potential owners was the return of Will Ashcroft, who looked, really good on the weekend. Great to see him back.
Yeah.
But didn't really impact. He didn't have a lot of CBAs. So I guess maybe as Ashcroft gets fitter, we might see his CBAs get more of a bump. So someone's going to have to wear that. But look, that's looking into it really deep. I think the simple answer is absolutely. You got to keep an eye on Dunks.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's a good option, and he'll be going up in price now with that massive score there. Trent Rivers 62. Tim, obviously you mentioned about going Caldwell over him, which was obviously good for your team. But for those coaches that did jump on Rivers, it was a bit unlucky. In the first quarter, he kicked a goal, but they called it ran too far. He gave away a few free kicks. So that's like an extra 20, 25 points that he did miss out on, just with a few things not going his way. Is it a situation where you were bringing him in to make some cash? Do you trade him straight back out if you've got no other bigger pressing issues?
Did you trade him in this week, Buzz?
No, I couldn't.
No, okay. Thankfully. Yeah, okay. Oh, that's right. You went willpower, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, look, what do you guys think? I mean, I guess there's going to be coaches out there that would have traded him in last week thinking that he's got that midfield role. I mean, is the role still there? That's I guess what coaches are going to be asking me themselves.
He had the role. Only Oliver and Viney had more CBAs other than Gorn. So he had the role. He just, like Bale said, a bit unlucky.
Put it tough fixture. Just a bad week. Yeah.
Only 66% game time as well. That was the other thing. Yeah. He played really low time on ground, which was a bit sort of interesting. Yeah. To be.
What's the average? What's he kind of averaged in prior to that?
Well, he got back-to-back 110s, but then it was obviously
no. So it's time on ground. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I think it was it was meant to be normally in the mid-70s, but this one was quite low.
Let's have a quick look. That's probably important for Trent Rivers owners.
I've got it up here. So 70s and 80s.
Yeah, so the previous 2 weeks were over 80. So
that was his lowest for the year. So what? I do remember. Yeah. I remember the commentator said in the last quarter there was this long patch where Gorn was stuck on the bench. One of those quarters where it was just Paul was always on the opposite wing and they really needed him on. There were a couple waiting to come on. So, potentially Rivers was one of them. He just got stuck there in the last. But
so
I wouldn't panic.
Hold fire. Yeah.
No. Yeah. At the price you pay, he'll be okay.
Yeah. The Gabba is one of those grounds that you can get stuck on the bench as well, which is frustrating for players trying to get back onto the ground. Perfect. Move on to Saturday.
Yeah, North defeated by Western Bulldogs by 17 points in front of 27,000 at Marvel Stadium. So the subs to this game, Dylan Stevens for North Melbourne replaced Zach Fisher after he was subbed out in the third quarter. I did a bit of looking into this. So he was assessed for a leg concern. Came from the ground in the first half and then was limited throughout the rest of the game. Eventually, he was subbed out. Clarkson said after the game that it was minor, and we expect North Melbourne to provide a further update in the upcoming period. So, make changes as news comes to hand. Then the other sub for the Western Bulldogs was Oscar Baker, who replaced Tyler Giroux in the third quarter after he was assessed for a foot concern. Injuries, only other injuries to mention from this game, Vandermeer was assessed for an ankle as well.
Yes, hopefully Zach Fisher is all good for us this week. So a few scores here. So the Bont. It feels like we owners want something, a concern off that somehow with Bont every week, because last 3 times he's either been sick or injured. He's gone over 120 every game, a couple of 150. So he's right up there in the Brown League contention, and he's on a roll. 3 of his last 4 are also over 125. So, he's a guy that you might want to be looking at still bringing in. He's got Port this week. Tough matchup. I expect Drew to go to him, but nonetheless, the Bont is getting it done. And so is Tristan Sherry, 129 again. Obviously, good matchup for him against English, and he sort of gave English a bit of a bath in the ruck, to be honest, in terms of hit-outs and stuff. But English still got a solid enough score there. But LDU, Jordox, obviously you're mentioning him. Is he someone that, for those coaches that got him, again, this is sort of team dependent and looking at what other issues you've got, but if there's a chance to trade him, are you looking at moving him on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what are we waiting for? Like I said, he had one of his best career games last week, and he didn't even crack a ton in fantasy. This week, I just read a little bit about whether he was tagged. It looks like he just kind of went head-to-head with Bont. So, I don't know, but no, he's definitely on the early chopping block for me. He's still priced relatively okay that you could get up to someone really good or go shopping for one of the bargains. Like Clayton Oliver's a great price, for example. Laughing at my own joke.
That's funny. Mate, I was laughing with you, so there you go.
No, the whole thing's a joke.
Yeah, mate. I don't think LDU. It's LDU. It reminds me of bounce for you, I think, with LDU. Don't come Monday, I reckon. That's probably what LDU would you at the moment. Yeah. Jai Simpkin as well, 64, Tim. Not a great score. Had the role, though. Had the most CBAs for any North Melbourne midfielder. You just putting this down to a low score? Again, is he a guy that you'd be looking potentially to be moving up to someone?
Question is, who are you moving up to? I guess... Well, I mean, let's talk about these forwards, right? Yeah. So, I mean, you'd pretty much think that everyone's got Heaney, Flanders, and Zorko, I would say, in the team, right? And then you'd think that Caldwell's got to be that number 4.
Yep.
Where do we still rate Sexton? Fisher in there? Where do we see those two? I mean, obviously there's concern with Fisher and his knee or leg from the weekend. How do you see Fisher? How do you boys see Sexton at the moment?
I'm still seeing Fisher in as my number 5. I think he's got the role. Even when McCurch comes back, he was still scoring fine with him there. I think he'll be fine moving forward. Sexton's the interesting one. It was we'll obviously talk about Flanders in the next game, but obviously he moved into the midfield, and that could be something we see moving forward. And it means that Powell and Sexton are there, but Lockie Weller is 3 weeks away from returning. He'll probably go through the VFL for a week or 2, but sort of Sexton's not going to have, I guess, this complete role for the rest of the year when Weller comes back. So that would be something to look at.
So who else are you looking at? Who else are we looking at?
I think there's three names that I like personally. I think Dylan Moore was one. He's got North and someone else to end the year. So 2 really good matchups there. I like Brian Myers as well. Put up a 92 on the weekend. Had a few lower gains, but it's got a really nice run home. And then the other one from the Crows, who's been very good of late, is Isaac Rankin. With a 150 on the weekend. I'm sure we'll talk about him in a sec when we get to the Crows game. So they're probably the 4 I'd be looking at outside of those other 5, I reckon.
All right. Well, let's move to the next game. Sydney defeated by Fremantle by 1 point in front of 35,000 people at the SCG. So the subs for this game were Caden Cleary, who replaced Harry Cunningham in the third quarter if he was subbed out with a hamstring. And then for Fremantle, James Aish replaced Hugh Davies in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so frustrating fantasy game with a lot of fantasy players in there, a lot of them just going 80s and 90s. Blakey, the only ton in this game, the 121. He was very good, nearly set up the winning goal. Unfortunately, Luke McDonald couldn't quite hit it right, but he'll be better for that moving forward. Luke Ryan, 97. Looked decent. Took a lot of kick-ins as well. I think with these runs coming up of matchups, especially Richmond this week, he's going to feast, I reckon. Goulden 82, first low score in a while, and a lot of people went Gawn VC into Goulden. So who would have thought that Goulden and Gawn would have averaged about 80 between them? So not great from him. And Heaney was quiet as well with a 79 with a 5 tag there. So maybe something to look at with a few people tagging Heaney last couple of weeks. But the one I want to talk about, he didn't score great on the weekend, but I'm keen to hear your boys' thoughts about him as an option. Andrew Brayshaw. So he only got an 80 on the weekend. I'm looking at his run, though. So he's got Richmond, Hawthorn, and Melbourne in his next 3. He's been the essentially 1 or 2 CBA attendee of the last sort of month or since just before the buys. And I feel like he's got a few ceiling scores in him. He got a 125 against Richmond last time and potentially could put up some big scores at a sort of mid-800s price. So guys like you, if you want to trade a LDU or something, you can go to a Brayshaw as a bit of a 3-4 week play. So I just want to get each of your boys' thoughts on him because he's the only one I probably want to touch on in this game. So Tim, will go you first and Jordox.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's probably a little luxury for me at the moment. And I'm a little nervous with his history earlier in the season, but it's, good of you to pick up that trend, Bales. And, I think savvy coaches will be looking for a move, something along those lines. But, yeah, it's just probably not something for me.
Yeah. Jordox?
Yeah, I've liked him for a while, but he just keeps dropping these 80s, which is it's hard to have that confidence in him. But yeah, if the run home is nice, he'd be a perfect sideways for a disgruntled LDU owner. And the other one in another game, but it's kind of similar as Took Miller, who's much cheaper and similarly has started to put the scores together. So there's some options out there.
Yep, exactly. And I do like his next 3 after those 3 for Brayshaw. He's got, I believe, West Coast, Essendon and Geelong as well. So that's not a bad other 3 to have. And then he finished off with a couple of tough games, but you can always trade him out at that point. But yeah, Took's another one we can look at.
And, of course, the issue was earlier in the year. I mean, we thought he was going to be potentially one of those kind of top 4 or, well, definitely a top 8 kind of mid this year until we kind of saw his role move to that outside and him just not really getting as many CBAs. So now if he's getting more of those CBAs, he could we certainly could see a bump.
Yeah.
But they're tagging Sarong, which is, pleasing if you've got Brayshaw. So
yeah. All right. Gold Coast defeated Collingwood by 11 points. This was a pretty tough game to tip in front of 28,000 people at People's First Stadium. Subs for this game, Bailey Humphrey replaced David Swallow in the third quarter. And for Collingwood, Joe Richards replaced Bo McCreary in the third quarter after he came from the ground with a hamstring. Now, they have confirmed that it is a calf strain, and we're just waiting on scans to note the severity. And then Noble also was an injury there with a concussion.
Yep. Joe Richards never should have been the sub. I'm still going to stand by that. Noah Anderson, 140. It was a good matchup for him against Collingwood, and he came through for his coaches there. And Louis, shout out to him, he brought him in our matchup this week. And when I saw Noah Anderson 130, I thought I was cooked, but just got over the line there. So, but no, well done, Louis, on that trade in there. Nick Dacos, 115. He's just an absolute marvel, and he's so good. That goal that he kicked, where he had 3 possessions in the one. Went past a couple of players, sold some canning, kicked. He's just absolute jet, and you're going to want him if you don't have him. I'm sure a lot of us do, though. Flanders is the one probably to discuss, 104. Moved into the midfield and played really well. And I think with Power back and Weller potentially only a few weeks away, I think that's the role's going to stick. So, Jordox, do you expect to see him in the mids? And do you think that he's just going to keep pumping out tons? Or do you think what do you think this does with his scoring moving forward?
Yeah, it's probably like Sheasel. We may not see the big 150s from him, but if he's in the guts, he's getting the pill. So, yeah, no concerns whatsoever on Flanders. Just, I guess for DPP next year, we would have been hoping he could just hang in there for defender status. But, if this run home has him as pure mid, then that'll be the choice for us next year.
Yeah, exactly. And he had the most CBAs as well. And he pushed Took Miller out. So obviously Took's another one that is a potential option. He only had the 10 CBAs. So Tim, does that, as an option for Took, does that concern you a bit that he only had 10 CBAs? And I know he got against Collingwood and he got one the week before, but he's got after this North game, I believe he's got like Port, Brisbane and Giants in a 3-week stretch. Does that worry you a bit that he's only got the 10 CBAs?
Well, look, Tilk really hasn't been too much of an option for me most of the year, just because, I mean, firstly, the kind of way that Gold Coast are playing, and, it's just kind of been more around that 90 to 100 guy. So I just don't see him really scoring in line with the kind of top 8 in the midfield. So no, I'm not on. I'm a dislike.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
From a bit of +6 being brought in. And then
Shout out to the boys.
And then Sexton 79 as well. I think he's a hold this week with North, but potentially could reassess after this week. And I guess coaches near the top that have got not many issues might be looking to jump off a Sexton and jumping on a Moore or a Myers or a Rankin or someone else. So
he's getting the kick in still. So the role, I was surprised. Yeah. I thought after last week he was a little bit more forward of centre in his game, but because Flanders went into the guts, that spot's still there for him with power. So yeah, I'm not as worried about Sexton as I was at the start of the round. Put it that way.
Yeah. Perfect. Cool. Move on to Saturday night.
Exactly. Adelaide defeated GWS by 16 points in front of no crowd. Well, that's right. Sorry about that, Miles.
Yes, I put it in. It said TBC. I don't know why they didn't put the crowd in.
But. It was about 28, 29K. Sure. So I think Adelaide Oval just hit it because it's probably the lowest for a home game in 15 years. I estimate.
Wow, corruption in the great state there. Oh, geez, my screensaver just kicked in. Sorry about that, boys. Really doing well for this game. All right, late change for this game. Chase Jones replaced in the selected side by Zach Taylor. And then he was the sub who was replaced, I should say, Braden Cook at 3/4 time. And then for GWS, Toby McMullen was the sub. Great surprise there. And he replaced Matt Gruetsky. Is that how I pronounce it? In the third quarter.
I've got a lot of different pronunciations.
Yeah, so, well, that was just a close my eyes, just have a throw at the dartboard. No major injuries for this game.
Yeah. So we'll go through a few of the scores here. So, Lockie Whitfield, we obviously mentioned before, 160, obviously was everywhere. I do think he cops a chin cotter tag this week, but Giants have shown an ability over the last sort of 5-6 weeks that even with a tag there, he takes all the kick-ins when he's on the field. He's got such a good work rate. Like seeing him live and sort of having a close eye on him, obviously being in my team, his work rate is, it's definitely up there. We won some of the best in the comp. He sprints for the footy, just a very, very good performance. And I think he can still get to a solid score with a tag. So if you don't have him, you're going to want to target him. Dawson and Tom Green got the job done. 106 each. Both had big second hours, particularly Dawson, who went a bit more behind the ball, copping a tag from Bedford, which I thought might have gone to a Rankin or Soligo, but they tagged him. Just something to note with Dawson, watching that game, his calf got strapped in the second half, and he looked like he was just a little bit of a limp moving around. So might have copped a cork to the calf. I think he must have an issue with his calf before the buys. I don't know if that was anything major. I think he'd be fine. He played the game out and looked fine, but just something to note with Dawson moving forward there. And Roy Laird didn't have the halfback role, but he got a 92. So I know Mitch brought Laird in this week home for that role and wasn't there, unfortunately, but still could be solid as a midfielder. But Rankin is the one to talk about, I reckon, this one here. Jordox, 115, looked bloody good in that first half especially. Is he an option, or do you think maybe detention has got to start going to him now, which means that maybe his floor scores could maybe kick in? So what are your thoughts with Rankin as an option?
Yeah, bloody exciting as a Crows fan, obviously. Look, I think we've all been thinking about Rankin as a potential option in fantasy, and then he had that injury, so he was out for a few weeks, and I think he was kind of forgotten. But, with the forward line in the condition it's in, which we've talked about ad nauseum this season, someone who can give you a good 6 to 8 week run of scores, he's absolutely there. But the only flag, and you mentioned it before, is, the Giants, I think if they had their time again, maybe they would have put more time into him. So they basically started with a Toby Bedford tag on Dawson, and Whitfield and Rankin pretty much went head to head. And I think they just, the old shake hands at the start, see you later. And then they had to rejig things because Rankin had 20 touches, 3 or 4. Yeah, 3-4 scoring shots, multitude of inside 50s and assists. So he was flying. So they put the time into him in the second half, and he didn't get as much of it. Still impactful when he got it, but not as much accumulation. So if that happens for 4 quarters, I'm not sure we're going to see the scores we want from him. So maybe a bit of a sit and watch for mine.
Yeah, I think I agree as well, especially with Brisbane at the Gabba this week, then going into a potential windy tag, because I'd imagine Windhager watching that will probably get a ranking after that. So something to note there. Perfect. We'll move on to the other Saturday night game.
Oh, before we do, Bales, you need to talk about Sam Berry. 4 quarters, scored an 84, impactful, got clearances. Sorry. Go to the next game. We'll talk about Tuesday night.
Geelong defeated Essendon by...
Yeah, he loves Sam Berry, Jordox does, so, yeah.
All right. Geelong defeated Essendon by 45 points in front of 55,000 people at the MCG. The subs for Geelong, Mark O'Connor replaced Mitch Duncan in the fourth quarter. And then for Essendon, Nick Cox replaced Harry Jones in the fourth quarter. Also, no major injuries for this game.
Yeah. Interesting way you said O'Connor. Then you said it really, really slow.
My bloody screensaver kicked in again, so I had to I was stalling so I could open my computer and then figure out who the hell was the other side of the sub.
I like the way you nearly said Cox's name. That gave me a giggle. Anyway,
there you
go. Jai Caldwell, top scored in this game, obviously was massive, 144 points. But again, I think the most important stat is not only his high score, his time on ground again stayed really high, 87% time on ground, back-to-back weeks over 85%. That was, again, his season high in back-to-back weeks. So his last 4 weeks, he's essentially been at 79+% in all 4. So not only is he getting the scoring bump, he's also got the time on ground bump. So really, really important for him. And he's going to be getting quite expensive now. So if you haven't jumped on, I think he almost needs to be your number one priority, I think, to grab him in the fall on before he gets near 900K. So he was very good there. Ollie Dempsey, who would have thought we need to keep him through there? 3 of his last 4 have been tons. And as Plan Footy says in the chat here, he's got to be probably leading the Rising Star Wall at this point now with Wardlaw being out. So he's had a very, very good season. 95% time on ground. He was very, very good there. Max Holmes 101 just continues ticking over these tons. And Nick Merritt 89 I'm assuming he got the tag from someone. I was at the Crows game. So if anyone did see that, that'd be good to sort of see if I think Atkins would have gone to him there. And then Nick Martin as well, 79. That was a poor score from him. And it was wet. That probably impacted him without those marks, but could be someone to be looking at maybe moving on potentially over the next month if you sort of want to do some luxury trades, target some of these guys with good runs to finish the year. But Tom Stewart, Jordox, most CBAs. Who would have... We heard about it pre-season. It didn't happen all year. People started with him, traded him out, brought him back in. Then he had a bad role. They're probably trading him back out again. If people did that, can we bring Stewart back in? Is this something to look at moving forward, or was this to get away from the Guelphy tag?
Oh, well, he had the most CBAs for the Cats. So, I don't know what Geelong are doing from week to week. I mean, they didn't bring in a ruck, and they played Sam de Koning in the ruck again. I think it's just getting too hard to predict what on earth Chris Scott's going to do from week to week. But in saying that, if Tom Stewart's playing on ball and he's their main man, you have to look at him. I just don't want to talk about it.
What is he priced at the moment? 6 something?
Cheap.
It'll be maybe I'm just projecting 680 something, 675 maybe in terms of price, I reckon.
Wow.
So still achievable and could be a sideways switch for someone. So someone to potentially look at, that's for sure.
Hey, before we move on, any idea what happened to Jordan Ridley? I mean, he scored a 48. He took 4 kick-ins.
I saw a thing come up saying he went off injured, but then he came back on. 48 conditions. I just think I was looking at him potentially this week. I just think he is capable of putting up those bad scores.
I heard obviously an unfounded rumor or whisper about him maybe being a laid out. So I wonder if he had some sort of issue and they pushed through. But anyway, that would have been devastating for anyone who took the plunge.
Yeah. All right. Well, We'll turn our attention to the Sunday games. And just a reminder, if you're joining us live on X or YouTube, let us know your questions by commenting on those platforms. But first, the Sunday games, St Kilda defeated by Port Adelaide by 2 points in front of 18,000 people at Marvel Stadium. The late change in this game was Seb Ross being replaced in the selected side by Dum-de-dum Tom Campbell. Now, for Saints, Cooper Sharman was the sub who replaced Dum-de-dum in the third quarter, which gave Marshall that kind of free range to score all right in the end. And for Port Adelaide, Will Lorenz replaced Todd Marshall after a hamstring in the third quarter. The only other kind of injury to mention here was Brad Hill went off in the last term with a hip problem and didn't return.
Yeah. But yeah, Ron Marshall, career high 3 goals, and all in the first half as well. I was at the UFC and just keeping on the scores ticking over. And every time I looked, it said Marshall goal. I was like, "What the hell's going on here?" But he wasn't doing that much else outside of kicking the goals. But he was still got a solid score, the 119, and as captain with Campbell in, that was pretty good. And I saw on that 9 things we learned from round 16 article on the AFL app, whatever, and the thing about the St Kilda game was saying that St Kilda looked better with the 2 rucks. No, don't be putting this into the universe. We don't want Campbell in the team. He doesn't offer that much more than what Marshall does. He played like 40% game time, got subbed out. Get rid of him. We want Marshall. Well, I want Marshall.
Well, Marshall's not doing you any favours by kicking 3 snags when he goes forward, Bales. So.
But the thing is, when he kicked those goals, he was actually on sweep. So actually, it was when he was in the ruck, he pushed forward and made sweep work. So that's the thing that was interesting. It's just like, get rid of him. But Max King's playing terrible. So, but anyway, Dan Houston, 47. That is an awful score. A lot of people looked at even bringing him in this week and over the last couple of weeks looking at this run. And unfortunately, a few people did flag it. This is what Houston's capable of. Just dropping a 40. It hadn't happened all year. And it had to happen, of course, in Houston way in the probably the best matchup possible. So, and shout out to Power Prawn Star in our chat as well. He had him captain. So he said he's now... He said, "Yeah, we're going to be done." He said, "I'm ending it tomorrow." So So Power Prawn Star, mate, let's stay just all
positive.
Make sure you're okay. Yeah, positive. Yeah. But Jack Sinclair, boys, 135. Obviously, we've known him to be a top 3 preem in the past. Tim, any interest from you there? Plays every game at Marvel, bar 1 game on the run home. So, any interest from you?
Well, yeah, it does pique my interest a little bit, but once again, didn't see this game, right? So I got questions. So my question would be, what role did he play?
Jordox, did you watch this one?
I didn't watch it, but just doing a quick bit of research on the fly. From what I've seen, he was off halfback. So he was in the plum role and he was scoring as we've known him to in that role. And then it looks like he went into the midfield in the last quarter. So I'm just trying to get a breakdown of his CBAs. So last quarter was, I think,
both CBAs were in last quarter.
Yeah, his lowest scoring quarter was last. In fact, he was quiet in the second half. He was huge in the first half, so off halfback.
Because Riley Bonner and Wanganeen Miller also scored pretty well, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah,
I wonder
Bonner
what
was 83.
Split was.
So Sinclair had 6, Wanganeen Miller had 4, Sean Make had 2, Webster had 1, so Bonner none.
Okay.
He had a good game though.
Yeah, so that dissipates my interest.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, look, just a lot of uncertainty, obviously, in that role for Jack Sinclair. So yeah, I probably want to stay away from it.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, we'll move on to the next game.
All right, Richmond defeated by Carlton by 61 points in front of almost 60,000 people at the MCG. Tom DeKoning was a late change with soreness, and he was replaced in the selected side by Mark Pitnet. Subs for this game, Sam Banks replaced Dusty after he went off in the third quarter with a sore back, and then George Hewitt replaced Chera after he went off with a hamstring in the fourth quarter. Matthew Kennedy also went off with a knee concern in this game as well.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, Tim Taranto scored a 92, had the most CBAs of any Richmond player, and quite clearly as well had 29. Next best was Hopper, 23, and Bolton with 21.
Isn't that what he normally scores when Hopper's in the side?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. He's normally around that 95 to 100 mark. They did get badly beaten in this game with Carlton. It was a wet game as well. I think more in the second half.
It was hot early, and as the Blues took the game away, Taranto faded. That was sort of what I saw.
for me, from what I probably take from this game for Taranto, is he's got a really nice month to finish the year. I think he's a good option to bring in then. I think with this tough run coming up where they could have a few tough losses, you may be just parking it for a little bit for maybe a couple of weeks. That's probably what I'll do. I was looking at him to bring in, but I don't know. We know that he can average about 95 and he's well over 900K. So I think there's probably maybe other guys you're looking at. Well, like, for example, Sam Walsh, around the same price, 132. If you don't have him, I think he's a guy that we've got to be targeting, Jordox.
Yeah, he's probably one of the ones where you look back on your season, and because I'm in self-reflective mode now that it's all over. And yeah, I didn't pick him up in anything that I play, and every week I think, why don't I? I think I don't know what it is, but no, I need to find a way to get him in because he is he's flying, and so are the Blue Baggers. So it's good for them.
I think he will have a tough one this week. I think he'll cop the Bedford tag. I think Walsh is the guy that you go to. So that's something to note for this week for Walsh. But,
not sure it'll matter.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I was going to say, I think he'll still get to a solid enough score. Maybe you don't trade him in this week. But the Blues do have a very nice run home. So you need Walsh in before the end of the season. And then Nick Newman, 143, very frustrating. I wish I brought him in this week. And I could have had him and Tom Powell instead of Powell and Rosie. But anyway, Tim, you're looking at Newman as an option. Very, very nice run home.
Yeah. Look, I mean, certainly we know what his ceiling's like as well. So particularly, I mean, and he's done it back half of last year. So I imagine he's hot on the radar of some of those top coaches.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at him. I think he could be a top 3 defender on the run home with this run coming home. So, 1-2 target. Perfect. Move on to the final game.
All right, West Coast defeated by Hawks by 61 points in front of 50,000 people at Optus Stadium. Subs for this game were Ryan Marich replaced Matt Flynn after he went off with an ankle in the third quarter. And then Harry Morrison for Hawthorn replaced Cal Shadir in the third quarter. So there's a couple of injuries out of this game. We've already talked about Flynn's ankle, but Jake Waterman also had a bit of a knee concern here. And then Sicily was assessed for a right shoulder concern and also didn't return to the game.
Yeah. Did you know the extent of any of those injuries, Tim? The Flynn or Waterman one for West Coast?
Nah. I did do a little bit of looking in just before here, but there's not too much information available. I don't know that anything's too severe, but probably the one that I think that looked the most serious was probably Sicily.
Yeah, it was dislocated shoulder. So I think
again. Yeah, because he dislocated early in the year as well. So I don't know if it was the same one, but that's a bit of a concern if that's the case.
It's just a cruel game because someone would have jumped on him. The price was right, and he was on with scores 113, and I think he came off early in the last or in the third. He was flying. So she's a cruel game for AF Fantasy.
Yeah, I guess the one if West Coast got any injuries, does that maybe give Hutchinson a reprieve? Maybe that'd be the guy on your bench to make some cash, but. Yeah. The only 2 players reef in this game, probably from fantasy relevance, is Liam Duggan responded after a few poor weeks with a 132. So he was very good. And Dylan Moore, 127. So, Tim, is there any interest from you for Dylan Moore? He's obviously got that ceiling and could be that guy that we're probably looking at with that sort of F6 spot.
Yeah, well, I think even last week, right, we had a lot of the questions that we seem to hear on other pods, a lot of the questions that we seem to get were around that F6 spot. So, and then obviously with what's happened this weekend, I think it's only just thrown more uncertainty into that forward line with, Zach Fisher being subbed out and then, more questions about Alex Sexton and his role. So, I think Dylan Moore is going to be closely looked at by a lot of coaches this week.
Yeah. Jordox, your thoughts on Dylan Moore?
Yeah, traded him out last week, so great to see him bounce back. Look, I don't know. He's been pretty hot and cold. It was an easy kill today, with respect, Timmy. I don't know. He was a frustrating own, but he can put it together. He can put together a score. It's just a bit up and down with him, I think. And they're not relying on him. Like the Hawks are so well spread and they're not relying on him as maybe they did in the year before last or whenever it was his big year. So, but at that price, got to have a look at him.
Yeah, no, I agree. Beautiful, Tim. I think we'll move on to questions.
All right, Bars. Well, you're the generally the quiz master there. So why don't you open up the questions, and why don't we do about 5 minutes worth of questions, and then we'll wrap up and finish up within the hour.
Yep. I am quite competitive when it comes to quizzes. A lot of my quizzes, doing them around about. But we'll get to questions in this one here. John A says here with the first question, order in terms of priority of bringing in. So Caldwell, Whitfield, Dunkley, well, Sicily's going to be crossed off, Newman, and Walsh and Rosie. So, Jordox, I'll go with you for this one because I know Tim doesn't like questions with many names in there. So who are you going out of that priority? So Caldwell or Whitfield?
Caldwell or Whitfield?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Oh, this is easy. Caldwell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where would you slide Dunkley in between Caldwell and Whitfield?
I would, yeah.
At the bottom. Newman?
I reckon at the bottom.
Maybe ahead of
Dunkley. Yeah.
But not the other two.
Dunkley. Walsh? I've got Walsh probably third.
No, straight to the top.
Just behind. Actually, no, I have him second behind Caldwell. I'll go.
I'll go with that. Yeah.
And then Rosie. Rosie's probably team dependent, I reckon. I've probably got him if you need him. He could be near the top, but
yeah, I would probably rank him after Caldwell just because of the value. I just don't think you can reduce the value.
Yeah. I think if your team's in a very good spot and you don't need a 700 car, I think he'd be at the bottom for you. But I think a lot of teams, he's probably going to be a top option because we're probably looking for that guy in the 700Ks, and he's a good option. This is a good one. John Nichols. What's a smoke you guys predict will go on a run? So, Jordan, is there any player that you sort of look at that you think will go on a run? Mine, I think already is Andrew Brayshaw. I think he'll go on a run now. That's my probably one. For you, anyone that you think will go on a bit of a run?
Yeah, I like Took Miller, but that last week when I had a similar question, Miller and was one of them, but yeah, he's a touch forward for my liking, but did score the ton. I think Rankin, is clearly ready to set the comp alight. It's just whether the taggers get to him. Yep. Probably none others pop up in my mind. Tim, what have you got for us?
So the midfielder with the best run of the next 5 weeks would have to be Tom Green. Adelaide, Carlton, Richmond, Gold Coast, and Melbourne. And then the other thing that I was looking at was, and this is not so much, I didn't call this out. I can't remember who called it out, but Charlie Curnow's got a pretty good run as well. Obviously, I had Richmond on the weekend, didn't go very well, but he's got GWS, Western Bulldogs, and North. And Western Bulldogs and North, the two easiest for key forwards. So he's got a pretty good run over the next 3 weeks as well, or 3 or 4 weeks.
Putrid today, though. That'd be my concern, jumping on a key position.
Yeah.
I thought today he would be a good one. He's nowhere near it.
Yeah. Will O'Mani. Hey, guys, I still don't have Bont, but I'm in the top 50. There you go, mate. Congrats, Will, on having a very good season so far. Is he the priority, or should I be looking at Dunkley, Ryan, or the cheaper Rosie? So, Tim, what do you think? Do you think Bont is the priority out of him, Dunkley, Ryan, or would you be going maybe the cheaper Rosie?
Look, I think you got to look at Rosie only in terms of what else it enables you to do. Now, if that enables you to make some kind of pretty damn good upgrade elsewhere in your team, I think that's what you got to look at doing. But if you can't really do another upgrade with that move, then sorry, what were the players again?
So you got Luke, Ryan, Josh Dunkley, and then obviously was to us about Bont. Is he the priority?
I would probably discount Luke Ryan. Dunkley, I don't mind. Oh my God, who else was there?
Bont. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what do you guys? I mean, Bont he just worries me. He's just a bit up and down. And the Dogs.
Nah.
He's got that
forget
ceiling,
it.
Though.
Forget the up and down. No,
just get on.
It's not even the case anymore. He had his last, if you want to say up and down, was round 10 against the Giants, 71. Then he had a weird 53 in round 5. Apart from that, It's just Bont doing Bont things. And I'm looking at the fixture, like who's going to tag him. I just don't think it matters. He is flying, and I reckon he's charging towards the Brownlow. He arguably
put a cheeky 5 on him the other day
last year.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I got Port Adelaide this week, though.
I think Drew will go to him. But then again, I think Bont can go forward. I think he's going well forward at the ball at the moment. So, yeah.
Well, we didn't talk about this in the Bulldog game, but remember on Tuesday night we had a big chat about where Phillips might go. Would he try?
I would go Dunkley this week.
And he
went Bont next week.
And he went to Treloar. So that was effective. I just wonder if teams will take something out of that and try and tag Treloar ahead of trying to tag Bont.
Yep. Sorry about that. Yep. Before my voice, my brain is just on loudspeaker, just shouting out opinions. But yeah, no. Like, look, you got like I said, Western Bulldogs up against Port Adelaide this week. I'm wondering whether
Dunks has got the Crows.
Dunks has got the easy beats, the Crows.
Thank you very much.
Next question.
Tim Ashworth's got this one here, so thank you very much for the super chat, mate. Can I be part of the crew on your podcast someday, mate? What might we be able to get you on at some point, mate? You never know. We'll see how we go with that. But I think we got guests for the rest of you, mate. But we'll definitely keep you in mind, mate. But appreciate the super chat there, nonetheless. We had done another super chat here from Tim Ashworth again, put up here. So thanks for the double one there. He said, Powell, Fisher, Sexton, or Jackson to Rosie. Who would you be going out of those for, Jordox? Which one?
How did Power go this week?
74.
I don't pay attention anymore.
74. Yeah, he bounced back somewhat. Jackson's the interesting one because I dropped him this week. How'd he go this week? So 74 as well. All right. Look, his recent form and his role's more consistent and predictable. So I'd be dropping Tom Powell out of that crew first.
Yeah. I would be agreeing with that one as well. And I reckon we'll go the final question, and we'll go with the question from a couple of good ones here. Obviously, we'll be doing a Q&A on Tuesday, so if we won't get to all of them tonight, but make sure you guys re-put them in on Tuesday. Yeah, we answered that one before. Actually, we'll go this one for Tony Ford. If Young drops another stinker this week, is he a trade? So if he puts up a stinker against Richmond, Tim, is he a trade for you?
Sorry, mate, that dropped out. What was it?
If Young drops a stinker against Richmond this week, is he a trade for you?
Yeah, you'd have to be starting to get pretty damn worried. But yeah, I guess I'm not worried just yet. I think it's a bit of a maybe it's just because I got bigger fish to fry. Maybe coaches doing better than me do need to be looking at this. We haven't really talked about it. What do you guys think, Hayden Young? Do we need to be worried?
I'm holding, but if he again, I agree with Tony. I think if he puts up a stinker against Richmond, and that role is similar, a bit more forward, fights more in the midfield, I think he'd be a trade because there are so many good defender options. Like we're talking about Newman and Holmes, and like I tried the Sheasel out. I'm looking at getting him back in. Jordan Clark's on this good run as well. Like there's so many good options. Like Jack Sinclair and even the side, they play every game Marvel bar one, so you potentially could look at one of those guys. There's just so many options. I think if Young's not doing it, he's got to go. Like we're looking at trading Nick Martin potentially. So
yeah, good point. Yeah. Good point.
I do think he'll be fine. He'll bounce back, Youngie.
Yeah, I think he will as well. Yeah. And final comment we'll finish on as well, just from Tony Foy. He said, trusted Bales over Mitch and brought in Rosie over Treloar, so I know who gives the better advice now. Beautiful. I got one over Mitch.
I just saw that, and I thought, I bet Bales pulls that one out just before we finish.
I have to. Mitch is fourth. He can enjoy potentially getting a hat and a car or whatever. I can enjoy giving the better advice for a week, so I'll take that one. Thanks, Tony.
Take the wins when you can.
Exactly.
All right, Bales, you're the only one I'm going to ask because you're the only one that's probably thought about it. Early trade plans?
Yep, locked in. Already done. No, no plans. Jai Clark down to probably a 200k rook, and then I'm looking at going a Toby Green, who's been good, very serviceable over the last few weeks after pivoting to him from the Simpkin out. Will be going up to Andrew Brayshaw for me, or potentially Will Power might go instead, but I think I want Will Power with this North matchup. So it'll be Green against Carlton up to Andrew Brayshaw for me, if I can make that happen.
Yeah, look, LDU is someone I'm worried about, but Jai Simpkin and Zach Fisher are probably the ones I'm most worried about. So I'll probably be looking at upgrading one of those, and I've got a Riley Sanders on the bench that I can still downgrade. So I've got plenty of cash there. Jordox, any idea about what you might be doing, mate?
Yeah, I've still got a kid on the field, so that'll be the priority this week. I think I'll go bargain hunting because I've got 100K, but it'd basically be good old Finn McRae and the next most fluffy cow. I don't know, maybe Harrison. So what's that? Yeah, I don't know. Extreme bargain hunting for me this week.
Sam Berry.
Yeah.
LDU down to Sam Berry. And then the kid can go up. Lock
there you go.
There you go. Let's dissect that on Tuesday night, shall we?
All right. Well, Bales, apart from the Tuesday night Q&A and the Friday pre-lockout chat, anything else you want to plug and let people know about?
Yep. So if anyone's got a question in regards to their trades, their team, captains, vice captains, draft, anything, you send the whole team through, go to askmeonq.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. That's spelt QU. As I said, you can send through your whole team. I believe they're going to be doing screenshot stuff as well. So you can send through just screenshots, makes it nice and easy. Just with a small fee for the questions there, but it helps support the channel, but gives you an in-depth answer that you guys get as an audio response straight to your mailbox and more in-depth than what I could give you in a direct message. So make sure you guys hit that up and join us for the Q&A on Tuesday.
All right. Well, fantastic. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, and especially thanks to those for joining us live, and in particular those who sent in questions. Now, for everyone out there, we'd love it if you give us a follow, subscribe, and of course, give us a 5-star review wherever you are joining us. And like I said, don't forget to join us live each week on X or YouTube, whether it's after the final siren of the round or our Tuesday night Q&A or for our Friday pre-lockout chat. Rate straight away, team, and best of luck with your research, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.
See ya.
See ya.
Beautiful. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'd normally stop the recording now, but I thought for people watching now, make sure you smash a thumbs up on the YouTube video. That'd be very much appreciated, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And make sure you follow me on TikTok at BalesDT, and that'd be very much appreciated. Thanks everyone.